Today we bring you a heartwarming tale of love, loss and the unbreakable bonds that connect us to our furry friends. Join us as we follow Ethan, a man who finds healing and hope through an unexpected connection to his beloved cat, Max, and a mysterious stray named Luna. This is a story about second chances, the power of love and the magic of animal companionship. Let's dive in. Welcome to Critters Planet, your go-to destination for heartwarming stories, fascinating facts and inspiring adventures from the world of animals. From loyal pets to incredible wildlife, we celebrate the beauty and wonder of all creatures, big and small. Join us as we explore the extraordinary bonds between humans and animals and discover how these amazing critters touch our lives in ways we never imagined. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest videos. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink as Officer Ethan Reed began his evening patrol. The quiet streets of Maplewood were familiar to him, a small town where everyone knew everyone, and the most excitement usually came from a stray raccoon rummaging through trash bins. But for Ethan, these quiet nights were more than just a routine. They were a time for reflection, a time when his thoughts inevitably drifted to the past. Ethan's patrol car hummed softly as he drove past rows of neatly trimmed hedges and cozy homes with glowing windows. The faint crackle of the police radio filled the silence, but Ethan barely registered it. His mind was elsewhere, lost in memories of a time when his life felt fuller, warmer. 3 years had passed since he lost Max, his loyal Maine Coon cat, but the pain still lingered like a shadow he couldn't shake. Max wasn't just a cat. He was Ethan's partner, his confidant, and his best friend. They had been inseparable. Since the day Ethan adopted him as a scrawny kitten from the local shelter, Max had been there through the highs and lows, through late-night shifts, lonely evenings, and even the breakup with his ex-girlfriend Sarah. Max had a way of making everything feel okay, his deep purrs and gentle nudges a constant source of comfort. But then, one rainy afternoon, everything changed. Everything. Max had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition, and despite Ethan's best efforts, the treatments hadn't been enough. He still remembered the day vividly, the sterile smell of the vet's office, the way Max's green eyes had looked, up at him, trusting and calm, even as the life slowly faded from them. Ethan had buried Max in the backyard of his childhood home, beneath the old oak tree where they used to sit together on lazy afternoons. He had placed Max's favorite toys and his worn leather collar in the grave, a final goodbye to the friend who had meant so much to him. Since then, Ethan had tried to move on. He threw himself into his work, patrolling the streets of Maplewood, with a sense of duty that kept him grounded. But the house felt emptier without Max's presence, the silence louder. He had thought about adopting another cat, but the idea always felt like a betrayal, as if he were trying to replace Max. And so he carried on, one quiet evening at a time. Tonight was no different. The streets were calm, the town settling into its nightly rhythm. Ethan's thoughts wandered as he drove, the faint hum of the engine a steady backdrop to his memories. He passed the old park, its playground empty and still, and turned onto Maple Lane, where the streetlights cast long shadows on the pavement. It was then that something caught his eye, a flash of movement in the dim light. Ethan slowed the car, his heart skipping a beat as he saw a medium-sized cat dart across the road. Its sleek black fur glistened in the rain, and for a moment Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The cat looked just like Max. He slammed on, the brakes, the tires screeching against the wet pavement. His heart pounded as he stepped out of the car, the rain soaking through his uniform. The cat stood frozen on the roadside, its green eyes wide and wary. Ethan crouched down, his voice soft and steady. "Hey there, buddy," he said, extending a hand. "It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you." The cat tilted its head, studying him with an intensity that felt almost human. For a moment, Ethan could have sworn he saw a flicker of recognition in those green eyes. The cat took a hesitant step forward, then another, its movements cautious but deliberate. Ethan noticed the worn collar around its neck, the metal tag glinting under the streetlight. His stomach dropped as he reached for the collar, his fingers brushing against the tag. He turned it over, his breath hitching as he read the engraved name, Max Reed. Ethan's mind raced. This couldn't be real. Max's collar had been buried with him 3 years ago. He remembered the weight of it in his hands, the way he had fastened it around Max's neck one last time before laying him to rest. How could this cat, this stranger, be wearing it? The cat let out a soft meow, breaking Ethan's trance. It leaned into his touch, its fur damp but warm against his hand. Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat as he scratched behind the cat's ears, the gesture so familiar it made his chest ache. "Luna," he murmured, reading the name on the collar. "Is that your name?" The cat purred softly as if in response. Ethan shook his head, trying to make sense of the impossible. This cat, Luna, couldn't be Max, and yet the resemblance was uncanny. The same green eyes, the same sleek black fur, even the way she tilted her head when she looked at him. "All right, Luna," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "Let's get you out of the rain." He opened the car door, and to his surprise, Luna jumped in without hesitation. She settled into the passenger seat, her green eyes watching him intently as he climbed back into the driver's seat. Ethan glanced at her, his mind still reeling, with questions. How had Luna ended up with Max's collar? What connection did she have to the cat he had loved and lost? As he drove toward the precinct, the rain pattering against the windshield, Ethan felt a strange sense of déjà vu. It was as if Max's spirit had somehow found its way back to him, guiding him toward something he couldn't yet understand. Luna sat quietly beside him, her presence both comforting and unsettling. When they arrived at the precinct, the station buzzed with its usual late-night activity. Officers typed reports, dispatchers relayed calls, and the faint aroma of stale coffee filled the air. Ethan carried Luna inside, wrapping her in his spare jacket to keep her warm. Heads turned as he made his way to his desk, his colleagues raising eyebrows at the sight of the cat. "New partner, Reed?" Officer Marquez joked, raising an eyebrow. "Something like that," Ethan replied, his voice tight. He gently placed Luna on an old blanket he found in the break room and sat down, his mind still spinning. Luna curled up on the blanket, her green eyes fixed on Ethan as if trying to communicate something. He reached for his phone and took a picture of the tag, then sent it to Sarah, his ex-girlfriend. "This just showed up on a stray, can you believe it?" he typed, staring at the screen as he waited for a reply. Minutes later, his phone buzzed. "Ethan, is this a joke? That tag was buried with Max." Ethan's stomach churned. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes drifting to Luna. It couldn't be a coincidence. He had to know more. Ethan's fingers trembled as he opened his laptop, the glow of the screen casting a pale light over his desk. Luna lay curled up on the blanket beside him, her green eyes half closed but still watching him intently. The precinct was quieter now, the late-night shift winding down, but Ethan's mind was anything but calm. He needed answers, and he wasn't going to stop until he found them. He started by searching for microchip databases. If Luna had an implant, it might reveal her owner and provide some clarity about the tag. Ethan grabbed a microchip scanner from the evidence room and ran it along Luna's neck. A faint beep confirmed the presence of a chip, and the screen displayed a number. Ethan entered it into the database, his heart pounding as he waited for the results. A file popped up, but what he saw only deepened the mystery. The cat's name was listed as Luna, and the owner was an elderly woman named Clara Bennett, who lived 2 towns over. The file showed a recent veterinary visit just 2 weeks ago. Ethan frowned, his mind racing. If Luna had been with Clara for 6 years, how could she have Max's tag? It didn't make sense. "Luna," Ethan murmured, looking at the cat. The name felt strange on his tongue, as if it didn't quite fit her. She blinked up at him, her green eyes filled with an almost knowing expression. Ethan pulled up Clara Bennett's contact information and dialed the number, his fingers tapping nervously on the desk. The phone rang twice before a frail voice answered. "Hello? Mrs. Bennett? This is Officer Ethan Reed from Maplewood. PD. I believe I found your cat, Luna." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment Ethan wondered if the call had dropped. Then Clara's voice came through, trembling and soft. "Luna? Are you sure?" "I scanned her microchip," Ethan said. "The ID matches. Is Luna missing?" Another silence, longer this time. Then Clara's voice cracked. She disappeared. 3 days ago. I don't understand how she could be there. I've had her for 6 years. Ethan's frown deepened. 6 years? Did you adopt her? Yes, Clara replied. From the shelter. She was brought in as a stray, but she's always been different. It's like she remembers something, or someone. The words sent a chill down Ethan's spine. He glanced at Luna, whose eyes never left his face. I'll bring her to you in the morning, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Thank you, officer, Clara said. Please take care of her. After hanging up, Ethan leaned back in his chair, his thoughts swirling. 6 years. That was almost exactly when Max had died. Luna couldn't be Max, it wasn't possible, and yet the resemblance was uncanny, and the tag made no sense. Luna whimpered softly, pulling Ethan from his thoughts. She nudged his hand with her nose, her green eyes full of unspoken emotion. Ethan scratched behind her ears, feeling a wave of nostalgia he couldn't ignore. You're not Max, he said softly. But you're here for a reason, aren't you? Luna tilted her head as if understanding, then laid her head on Ethan's lap. That night Ethan couldn't sleep. He stayed at the station with Luna, scrolling through old photos of Max on his phone. The images brought back memories. Max chasing toy mice, curling up on Ethan's chest during lazy afternoons, and sitting by the window watching the world go by. He remembered the day Max passed away, the sharp pain of loss, and the guilt that lingered. Ethan had always wondered if there was something more he could have done to save him. As dawn approached, Ethan made a decision. He would return Luna to Clara Bennett, but first he needed to visit Max's grave. The house on Maple Lane stood abandoned now, its once vibrant garden overgrown with weeds. Ethan parked his car and walked to the backyard, Luna following close behind. The air was still and cold, the morning dew clinging to the grass. There, beneath a sturdy oak tree, lay a small gravestone etched with the words, Max Reed, partner, protector, friend, forever loved. Ethan knelt beside the grave, his heart heavy. Luna sat beside him, her eyes fixed on the stone. For a long moment they stayed like that, man and cat connected by an invisible thread. I don't know how or why you're here, Ethan whispered, his voice breaking. But if you're a part of Max, if you're here to tell me something, I'm listening. Luna leaned against him, a low purr escaping her throat. Ethan placed his hand on the gravestone, closing his eyes. In the silence he felt something he hadn't in years, a sense of peace, as if Max's spirit was still watching over him. When Ethan opened his eyes, Luna was staring at him, her green gaze unwavering. For the first time, Ethan felt like he wasn't chasing answers but being guided toward them. Come on, Luna, he said finally, standing up. Let's see where this leads. The drive to Clara Bennett's house was quiet, the rhythmic hum of the car's engine filling the space between Ethan and Luna. The cat sat calmly in the passenger seat, her green eyes fixed on the road ahead. Ethan glanced at her occasionally, still trying to make sense of the strange connection he felt. Luna's presence was comforting, yet it stirred up emotions he had buried long ago. Clara's house was a modest cottage on the outskirts of Willow Creek, surrounded by a garden filled with wildflowers. Ethan parked in the gravel driveway, stepping out of the car with Luna at his side. The cat seemed hesitant, her ears twitching as she took in the unfamiliar surroundings. Ethan knelt down, scratching behind her ears. It's okay, Luna, he said softly. We're just here to figure things out. Before he could knock, the front door creaked open, and a small, elderly woman appeared. She was wrapped in a knitted shawl, her kind eyes sparkling behind thin-framed glasses. Clara Bennett looked exactly as Ethan had imagined, frail but full of warmth. "Oh, Luna!" Clara exclaimed, her voice trembling with relief. She knelt down, her movements slow but deliberate, and opened her arms. Luna trotted toward her, her tail swishing gently. Clara wrapped her arms around the cat, her eyes glistening with tears. "I thought I'd lost you for good." Ethan watched the reunion, a pang of guilt tugging at his chest. Luna had only been with him for a short time, but the bond they'd formed felt significant. He couldn't help but feel possessive, even though he knew Luna belonged to Clara. "Thank you, Officer Reed," Clara said, standing up with effort. "I don't know how to repay you." "No need," Ethan replied, his voice measured. "But there's something I need to ask you." Clara frowned, her gaze dropping to the tag still dangling from Luna's collar. She touched it with trembling fingers, her expression shifting from gratitude to confusion. "This tag," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "It belonged to my cat, Max," Ethan explained. "He died 6 years ago. This tag was buried with him." Clara's face paled. I didn't know," she stammered. "Luna had that tag when I adopted her. I thought it was just... I didn't think..." Ethan's heart ached at the distress in Clara's voice. He hadn't meant to upset her, but he needed answers. "Can you tell me where you got Luna? Anything that might explain this?" Clara motioned for Ethan to follow her inside. The living room was cozy, filled with bookshelves and framed photographs of family. Luna lay down by the fireplace, as if it were her usual spot, her eyes never leaving Ethan. "I adopted Luna from a shelter," Clara explained, settling into an armchair. "She was brought in as a stray about 6 years ago. They told me she'd been wandering for weeks before someone found her." Ethan leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly. "Do you remember which shelter?" "Golden Paws in Mill Haven," Clara replied. "They're wonderful people. They saved so many animals after that terrible storm." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. Golden Paws was well known for rescuing strays after a hurricane had hit the area 6 years ago, the same year Max had passed away. Could Luna have been displaced during that time? But that didn't explain the tag. "May I borrow her for a little longer?" Ethan asked cautiously. "I need to follow up with the shelter, and I think Luna might be the key." Clara hesitated, her eyes flicking to the cat. "She's always been special, you know," she said softly. "It's like she carries a piece of every person who's ever loved her." Ethan couldn't argue with that. He thanked Clara for her time, promising to return Luna soon. Back in the car, he dialed Golden Paws. The woman who answered was cheerful and professional, but her tone shifted when Ethan mentioned Luna's description and the timeline. "I remember her," she said after a pause. "She was a unique case. Came in after the hurricane. Emaciated, scared, but with this incredible resilience. We couldn't find any records of an owner. No microchip, no tags." "No tags," Ethan repeated, his pulse quickening. "Are you sure?" "Positive," the woman said. "If she'd had a tag, we'd have documented it. Why do you ask?" "No. Reason," Ethan said quickly. "Thanks for your help." He hung up, his thoughts spiraling. If Luna hadn't had a tag when she was rescued, how did she end up with Max's? That evening, Ethan sat in his living room, the house eerily quiet, except for the occasional sound of Luna shifting in her sleep. On the coffee table lay Max's old collar, retrieved from the small box of keepsakes Ethan had avoided for years. The realization hit him like a freight train. The collar and tag were perfectly intact. But how? He remembered the day they buried Max. The tag had been securely fastened to the collar, left with his beloved companion beneath the oak tree. Luna stirred, waking from her nap. She stretched, then padded over to Ethan, resting her head on his lap. Ethan absently scratched behind her ears, staring at the collar as if it held all the answers. "What are you trying to tell me, girl?" he murmured. Luna's tail thumped. Once against the floor, her green eyes locked on his. The room grew heavy with unspoken questions. Ethan knew there was more to this, something he couldn't yet see. But one thing was clear. Luna's presence wasn't random, and neither was the tag. As the night deepened, Ethan made up his mind. Tomorrow he would return to Max's grave. Maybe the answers he sought weren't in the present, but buried in the past. The following morning, the sun struggled to break through a thick layer of clouds, casting the world in a muted grey. Ethan drove toward the park where Max had been buried, Luna riding silently beside him. The weight of the collar and tag sat heavy in his pocket, an anchor to memories and questions that refused to let him go. As he pulled into the parking lot, the familiar sights of the park greeted him. The playground where children used to laugh, the jogging trail he and Max had walked countless times. It all felt eerily unchanged, as if frozen in time since Max's passing. Luna jumped out of the car as soon as Ethan opened the door, her nose twitching as she sniffed the crisp morning air. Ethan grabbed a small shovel from the trunk, a knot forming in his stomach. He wasn't proud of what he was about to do, but he had to know. The old oak tree stood tall at the edge of the park, its massive branches reaching out like protective arms. This was where they had laid Max to rest, in a quiet spot away from the noise of the world. Ethan's steps slowed as he approached, the memories flooding back in vivid detail. Max bounding through the tall grass, his joyful meows filling the air. The way he would curl up beside Ethan on lazy afternoons, his purrs, a soothing lullaby. The day they buried him, the earth damp and cold beneath Ethan's hands as he said his final goodbye. Luna trotted ahead, her movements purposeful. She stopped at the base of the tree, her nose brushing against the ground. Then, to Ethan's shock, she let out a low, mournful meow. The sound sent chills down his spine, a mournful cry he hadn't heard since Max's final days. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. "Luna," he whispered, his voice trembling. The cat turned to look at him, her green eyes filled with an intensity that made his chest ache. For a moment, he felt as if Max's spirit was there with them, guiding them towards something he couldn't yet understand. Shaking off the eerie feeling, Ethan knelt by the tree and pushed the shovel into the earth. The soil was damp and heavy, each movement feeling like a betrayal of his beloved Max. Luna sat nearby, her eyes never leaving Ethan as he worked. Minutes turned to an hour, and finally, the edge of the small wooden box came into view. Ethan's heart raced as he cleared the dirt around it. He hesitated, his breath catching in his throat before carefully lifting the box out of the ground. The box was weathered, but intact. Ethan sat back on his heels, his fingers brushing over the lid. He had buried this box himself, sealing it, with Max's collar and a few of his favorite toys. With a deep breath, he opened it. The sight that met him defied explanation. The collar was there, coiled neatly as he had left it, but the tag was missing. Ethan stared, his mind racing. He remembered the day vividly, the weight of the collar, the glint of the tag as he fastened it one last time. It had been there. It had to have been there. Luna let out a soft meow, nudging Ethan's arm with her nose, as if to pull him out of his thoughts. Ethan looked down at the cat, his chest tightening. "What is this?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "How is this possible?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out the tag he had found on Luna's collar. Holding it up, to the light he compared it to the collar in the box. The scratches, the wear, every detail was identical. There was no doubt this was Max's tag. But how had it ended up on Luna? Ethan's mind raced with possibilities. Had someone dug up the grave and taken the tag? Was it a cruel prank? Or was there something more profound at play, something he couldn't explain? Luna meowed again, her green eyes locked on his. She leaned against him, her warm body a comforting presence against the chill of the morning. "I don't understand," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "But I think you're trying to tell me something, aren't you?" Luna purred softly, her tail swishing gently. Ethan closed the box and placed it back in the ground, covering it with soil. He felt a strange sense of closure, as if Max's spirit had guided him to this moment. Standing up, he looked at Luna, who was still watching him with those knowing green eyes. "Let's go home," he said finally. "We'll figure this out together." As they walked back to the car, Ethan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The mystery of the tag and Luna's connection to Max was far from solved, but for the first time in years, he felt a sense of peace. Max's spirit was still with him, and Luna was proof of that. That night, Ethan lay in bed, the events of the UA day replaying in his mind. Luna was curled up at his feet, her soft purrs a soothing rhythm in the quiet room. The mystery of the tag and Luna's connection to Max still weighed heavily on him, but exhaustion eventually pulled him into a deep sleep. In his dream, Ethan found himself walking along a familiar trail, the same one he and Max had loved. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the trees, and the air was filled with the scent of pine and earth. Max walked beside him, his sleek black fur glistening in the fading light. Ethan could feel the warmth of Max's body, the gentle brush of his tail against his leg. "Max," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. The cat turned to look at him, his green eyes filled with a peaceful calm. "I've missed you so much." Max's voice echoed in Ethan's mind, soft and reassuring. "I've always been with you, Ethan. I sent Luna to guide you. She's a part of me just as I'm a part of you." Ethan's heart swelled with emotion. "But how? How is this possible?" Max tilted his head, his eyes filled with an ancient wisdom. "Love doesn't end, Ethan, it transforms. Luna carries a piece of my spirit, just as you carry my memory. Together, you'll find the answers you're looking for." Before Ethan could respond, the dream began to fade. He reached out to Max, but the cat was already stepping into the golden light of the sunset. "Take care of her, Ethan, and take care of yourself." Ethan woke with a start, his heart pounding. The room was dark, but Luna was still there, her green eyes watching him from the foot of the bed. She let out a soft meow as if sensing his distress, and padded over to curl up beside him. Ethan ran a hand through her fur, his mind racing. The dream had felt so real, so vivid. Was it just his subconscious trying to make sense of everything, or had Max truly reached out to him? He didn't have the answers, but one thing was clear. Luna was more than just a cat. She was a bridge between his past and his present, a living reminder of the love he had shared with Max. The next morning, Ethan decided to visit Golden Paws, the shelter where Clara had adopted Luna. He needed to know more about Luna's past, about where she had come from and how she had ended up with Max's tag. Luna sat in the passenger seat, her green eyes fixed on the road as they drove. Golden Paws was a modest building on the outskirts of Millhaven, its walls adorned with photos of happy adoptions and success stories. Ethan walked in with Luna at his side, the scent of cleaning supplies and animal food filling the air. A cheerful woman with a name tag that read Beth greeted them at the front desk. "Can I help you?" she asked, her eyes lighting up when she saw Luna. "Oh, what a beautiful cat." "This is Luna," Ethan said, scratching behind her ears. "I'm Officer Ethan Reed. I'm trying to find out more about her history. She was adopted from here about 6 years ago." Beth's expression shifted, her smile fading slightly. "Luna, let me check our records." She typed something into the computer, her brow furrowing as she scanned the screen. "Ah, here she is." Luna was brought in after the hurricane. She was found wandering near an abandoned property, malnourished and scared. We couldn't find any records of an owner, so we put her up for adoption. Ethan's heart sank. "Do you remember anything else about her? Anything unusual?" Beth hesitated, then leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "There was something strange about her. She had this old tag when she was found, but it was so worn we couldn't read it. We thought it might have belonged to a previous owner, but we never found any leads." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Do you still have the tag?" Beth shook her head. "I'm sorry, we don't keep items like that, but I can tell you this. Luna was special. She had this presence, like she was carrying a piece of someone else's story." Ethan thanked Beth and left the shelter, his mind swirling with questions. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, but the picture was still unclear. Luna had been found with a tag, just like the one she now wore. Could it have been Max's all along? And if so, how had it ended up with her? As they drove home, Ethan glanced at Luna, who was sitting calmly in the passenger seat. "You're full of mysteries, aren't you?" he said softly. "But I think we're getting closer to the truth." Luna meowed in response, her green eyes filled with an almost human understanding. Ethan felt a surge of determination. He didn't know how or why, but Luna had brought Max back into his life, and he was going to honor that connection, no matter where it led. Ethan's determination to uncover the truth about Luna and Max's tag led him to the next logical step, reaching out to the community. If Luna had been found near an abandoned property after the hurricane, someone in the area might remember her or know something about her past. He decided to start with the neighborhood where Clara had adopted Luna, hoping to find clues that could piece together the mystery. The next morning, Ethan and Luna drove to the outskirts of Millhaven, where the abandoned property was located. The area was quiet, with overgrown fields and dilapidated houses dotting the landscape. Ethan parked near the property Luna had been found on, a sense of unease settling in his chest. The place felt forgotten, as if time had stopped here years ago. Luna jumped out of the car, her nose twitching as she sniffed the air. She seemed alert, her green eyes scanning the surroundings with a sense of purpose. Ethan followed her, his footsteps crunching on the dry grass. As they approached the property, Luna darted ahead, her tail swishing with excitement. "What is it, girl?" Ethan asked, quickening his pace. Luna stopped near a rusted mailbox, scratching at the ground. Ethan knelt down, brushing away the dirt to reveal a small weathered tag. His heart skipped a beat as he picked it up, the engraving barely legible. It read, "Buddy, Buddy," Ethan murmured, turning the tag over in his hands. The name didn't ring a bell, but the discovery felt significant. He tucked the tag into his pocket, his mind racing with possibilities. Could Buddy have been another cat connected to Luna, or was this another piece of the puzzle he hadn't yet understood? As they continued to explore the property, Ethan noticed a small, crumbling shed at the edge of the field. The door hung loosely, on its hinges, and the roof was partially caved in. Luna trotted toward it, her ears perked with curiosity. Ethan followed, his flashlight cutting through the dim interior. Inside, the shed was filled with debris, broken tools, old furniture, and scattered papers. But in the corner, partially hidden under a pile of rotting wood, was a small, rusted doghouse. Ethan's breath caught as he knelt down to examine it. The doghouse was old and weathered, but there was something familiar about it. He cleared away the debris, his heart pounding as he noticed a faint engraving on the side. "Max." "Max?" Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. He reached into the doghouse, his fingers brushing against something cold and metallic. Pulling it out, he found another tag, identical to the one Luna now wore. The engraving was faint but unmistakable. Max Reed. Ethan's mind raced. How had Max's doghouse ended up here? And why was it buried under debris in an abandoned shed? He felt a surge of frustration and confusion, but also a glimmer of hope. He was getting closer to the truth, even if it was more complicated than he had imagined. As he stood up, Luna let out a soft meow, her green eyes fixed on him. She nudged his hand with her nose, as if urging him to keep going. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of determination. "All right, Luna," he said, "let's see where this leads." They spent the rest of the day exploring the property, but no other clues surfaced. As the sun began to set, Ethan decided to return home and regroup. He needed to think, to process everything he had discovered. But before he left, he took one last look at the shed, a strange sense of connection washing over him. That evening, Ethan sat at his kitchen table, the tags spread out in front of him. Max's tag, Buddy's tag, and the doghouse engraving. Each piece felt like a fragment of a larger story. He pulled out his laptop and began searching for any information about Buddy or the abandoned property. Hours passed, but he found nothing conclusive. Just as he was about to give up, an idea struck him. He opened a local community forum and posted a message, looking for information about a cat named Buddy or an abandoned property near Mill Haven. Any details would be appreciated. To his surprise, responses began trickling in almost immediately. One message stood out. "Buddy was my neighbor's cat. They moved away after the hurricane, but I remember him. He was a black cat with green eyes, just like Max." Ethan's heart raced as he read the message. He quickly replied, asking for more information. The user, who went by the name Sarah92, agreed to meet him the next day. The next morning, Ethan and Luna drove to the address Sarah92 had provided. It was a small, cozy house on the edge of Mill Haven, surrounded by a well-kept garden. Ethan parked the car and stepped out, Luna trotting beside him. The air was crisp, the scent of blooming flowers filling the breeze. Sarah, a woman in her late 30s with kind eyes and a warm smile, greeted them at the door. "You must be Ethan," she said, extending a hand. "And this must be Luna. She's beautiful." "Thank you," Ethan said, shaking her hand. "I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me." Sarah led them inside, offering Ethan a seat on the couch. Luna curled up at his feet, her green eyes scanning the room with curiosity. Sarah sat across from them, her expression thoughtful. "You said you were looking for information about Buddy," she began. "He belonged to my neighbors, the Collins family. They lived in that abandoned property you mentioned. Buddy was their cat, a black Maine Coon with green eyes, just like Max." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "Do you know what happened to him?" Sarah's expression darkened. "The Collins family lost everything in the hurricane. Their house was destroyed and they had to move away. They couldn't take Buddy with them, so they left him behind. I tried to take care of him, but he disappeared a few days later. I always wondered what happened to him." Ethan felt a pang of sadness. "I think I might know," he said, pulling out the tag he had found at the property. "I found this near the shed. It has Buddy's name on it." Sarah's eyes widened as she took the tag, her fingers tracing the engraving. "This is Buddy's tag," she said softly. "I remember it. He used to wear it all the time." Ethan hesitated, then pulled out Max's tag. "And this belonged to my cat, Max. He passed away 6 years ago, around the same time Buddy disappeared. Luna here was found near the Collins property, and she was wearing Max's tag." Sarah's eyes filled with understanding. "You think there's a connection between Buddy and Max?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted, "but it feels like there's something more to this. Luna, she's so much like Max, and now finding Buddy's tag, it's like the pieces are coming together, but I still can't see the whole picture." Sarah leaned back. The Collins family loved Buddy dearly. They were devastated when they had to leave him behind. If Buddy and Max were connected in some way, maybe it's through the love they shared with their owners. Ethan nodded, the weight of her words settling in his chest. "Maybe," he said softly. "But I still don't understand how Luna ended up with Max's tag." Sarah smiled gently. "Sometimes the answers we're looking for aren't in the details. Maybe it's not about how or why, but about what it means to you. Luna found her way to you for a reason, Ethan. Maybe it's not about solving the mystery, but about embracing the connection." Ethan looked down at Luna, who was watching him with those knowing green eyes. He felt a surge of gratitude for the cat who had brought so much light back into his life. Sarah was right. Maybe the answers weren't as important as the journey itself. As they left Sarah's house, Ethan felt a sense of closure. He still didn't have all the answers, but he had found something even more valuable, a deeper understanding of the bonds that connected him to Max, to Luna, and to the people who had loved them. Ethan and Luna returned home that evening, the weight of the day's discoveries settling over them like a warm blanket. The mystery of Max's tag and Luna's connection to Buddy still lingered, but Ethan felt a newfound sense of peace. He had spent so much time chasing answers, but now he realized that the journey itself had brought him closer to understanding the love and loyalty that bound him to Max, and now to Luna. The next morning, Ethan decided to honor Max's memory in a way that felt right. He gathered a few of Max's old toys, his favorite blanket, and the tags he had found. Max's, Buddy's, and the one Luna now wore. He placed them in a small wooden box, along with a photo of Max and a note he had written. "To Max, my partner, my protector, my friend. Your love lives on in Luna and in me. Thank you for guiding me back to the light." Ethan carried the box to the backyard, where Max's grave lay beneath the old oak tree. Luna followed close behind, her green eyes watching him with quiet understanding. Ethan knelt by the grave, his heart heavy but full. "Hey, Buddy," he said softly, placing the box beside the gravestone. "I don't know how or why, but Luna found her way to me. She's carrying a piece of you just like I am. And I think you sent her to remind me that love doesn't end. It just changes." Luna sat beside him, her tail swishing gently. She let out a soft meow as if to echo Ethan's words. He reached out to scratch behind her ears, feeling a surge of gratitude for the cat who had brought so much joy back into his life. As they sat together in the quiet of the backyard, Ethan felt a sense of closure. The mystery of the tags and Luna's connection to Max might never be fully solved, but that was okay. What mattered was the love they shared, the love that had brought them together and would continue to guide them forward. That evening, Ethan decided to share his story with the community. He posted a message on the local forum, detailing his journey with Max and Luna, the discoveries he had made and the lessons he had learned. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of people shared their own stories of love, loss, and the pets, who had changed their lives. One message stood out. "Your story reminded me of my own cat, Whiskers. She passed away last year, but a stray showed up at my door a few months later. She looks just like Whiskers, and she even has some of the same quirks. I like to think Whiskers sent her to me." Ethan smiled as he read the message, feeling a deep sense of connection to the strangers who had shared their stories. Love, he realized, was a universal language, one that transcended time, loss, and even species. In the weeks that followed, Ethan and Luna settled into a new rhythm. The mystery of Max's tag and Luna's connection to Buddy had brought them closer, and Ethan found himself embracing the present with a sense of gratitude and purpose. He no longer felt the need to chase answers. Instead, he focused on the bond he shared with Luna and the lessons she had taught him. One sunny Saturday morning, Ethan decided to take Luna to the local animal shelter. He had been inspired by the stories people had shared online and wanted to give back to the community that had supported him. He packed a box of supplies, blankets, toys, and food, and drove to the shelter with Luna riding shotgun. When they arrived, the shelter was bustling with activity. Volunteers were busy cleaning kennels, feeding animals, and organizing adoption events. Ethan carried the box inside, Luna trotting beside him. A young woman with a name tag that read Emily greeted them at the front desk. "Hi there, can I help?" "You?" she asked, her eyes lighting up when she saw Luna. "I'm Ethan Reed," he said, setting the box on the counter. "I brought some supplies for the shelter, and this is Luna. She's a bit of a local celebrity." Emily smiled. "We've heard about you two. Your story inspired so many people. Thank you for bringing these supplies. They'll make a big difference." Ethan nodded, feeling a swell of pride. "I also wanted to see if there's anything else I can do to help. Luna and I would love to volunteer if you need an extra pair of hands." Emily's face lit up. "We'd love to have you. We're actually hosting an adoption event next weekend. It would be great if you and Luna could be there to share your story." Ethan agreed, feeling a sense of excitement. The idea of helping other animals find loving homes felt like the perfect way to honor Max's memory and celebrate the bond he shared with Luna. The day of the adoption event arrived, and the shelter was filled with energy and hope. Families and individuals wandered through the rows of kennels, their faces lighting up as they interacted with the animals. Ethan and Luna stood near a booth, sharing their story with anyone who would listen. A young boy, no more than 8 years old, approached with his parents. He knelt down to pet Luna, his eyes wide with wonder. "She's so pretty," he said. "What's her name?" "This is Luna," Ethan said, smiling. "She's very special." The boy looked up at Ethan. "Did you adopt her from here?" "Not from this shelter, but from another one," Ethan explained. "She found her way to me when I needed her most, just like the animals here are waiting to find their forever homes." The boy's parents exchanged a glance, then smiled. "We've been thinking about adopting a cat," the mother said. "Maybe today's the day." Ethan felt a surge of joy as he watched the family walk toward the cat adoption area. Luna let out a soft meow, as if she understood the impact they were making. By the end of the day, several animals had found new homes, and Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. As he and Luna drove home, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, he realized how far they had come. The pain of losing Max would always be a part of him, but it no longer defined him. Instead, it had become a source of strength, a reminder of the love that had shaped his life and the new connections that had brought him back to the light. The adoption event marked a turning point for Ethan and Luna. Their story had not only inspired others to open their hearts to shelter animals, but had also deepened Ethan's understanding of the bonds that connected him to Max, Luna, and the community around him. He began volunteering regularly at the shelter, bringing Luna along to help socialize the animals and share their story with potential adopters. One evening, as Ethan sat on the porch with Luna curled up beside him, he reflected on the journey they had taken together. The mystery of Max's tag and Luna's connection to Buddy had brought them to this moment, a moment of peace, purpose, and connection. He pulled out his journal, a habit he had picked up during his time of reflection, and began to write. Love doesn't end, it transforms. Max taught me that, and Luna has shown me how to live it. Every day I see the impact of their love, in the families who adopt shelter animals, in the volunteers who give their time, and in the community that comes together to support one another. I don't have all the answers, and maybe I never will. But I've learned that the journey is what matters. The connections we make, the love we share, and the lives we touch, that's what truly lasts. As he closed the journal, Luna let out a soft meow, her green eyes watching him with an almost human understanding. Ethan smiled, scratching behind her ears. "You've changed my life, Luna," he said softly, "and I'll never stop being grateful for that." The next day, Ethan received a call from Clara Bennett. Her voice was warm and filled with gratitude. "Ethan, I just wanted to thank you again for bringing Luna back to me. She's been such a comfort, and I can see how much she means to you. I've been thinking, maybe she belongs with you." Ethan's heart swelled with emotion. "Clara, are you sure?" "Yes," Clara said firmly. "Luna has a special connection with you, and I can see how happy she makes you. She's found her home with you, Ethan, and I know Max would be proud." Tears filled Ethan's eyes as he thanked Clara, his voice thick with emotion. When he hung up the phone, he looked at Luna, who was sitting at his feet, her tail swishing gently. "Looks like you're officially part of the family," he said, his voice breaking. Luna meowed in response, her green eyes filled with love and loyalty. Ethan knelt down and wrapped his arms around her, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't known in years. Max's spirit lived on in Luna, and together they had created a new chapter, one filled with love, hope, and the promise of a brighter future. With Luna officially part of his family, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The bond they shared was a testament to the enduring power of love, and he was determined to honor that by continuing to make a difference in the lives of others. He and Luna became regular fixtures at the shelter, their story inspiring countless people to open their hearts to animals in need. One crisp autumn morning, Ethan and Luna arrived at the shelter to find a flurry of activity. A new shipment of supplies had just been delivered, and volunteers were busy unpacking boxes and organizing donations. Emily greeted them with a bright smile. "Ethan, Luna, perfect timing," she said. "We've got a big project today, renovating the cat adoption area. We could really use your help." Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of excitement. "We're in. What do you need us to do?" Emily handed him a clipboard with a list of tasks. "We're building new climbing structures, painting the walls and setting up cozy nooks for the cats. It's going to be a lot of work, but it'll make such a difference for the animals." Ethan and Luna got to work, their teamwork seamless. Luna supervised from a nearby perch, her green eyes watching as Ethan and the other volunteers hammered, painted, and assembled. Her presence was a source of comfort and inspiration, reminding everyone why they were there. As the day went on, Ethan found himself reflecting on how far he had come. The pain of losing Max had once felt insurmountable, but now, surrounded by a community of animal lovers, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Luna had not only healed his heart, but had also shown him the power of connection and compassion. At the end of the day, the cat adoption area was transformed. Brightly painted walls, cozy nooks and climbing structures filled the space, creating a welcoming environment for the cats and potential adopters. Emily clapped her hands together, her face beaming with pride. "This is amazing," she said. "Thank you, everyone, and especially you, Ethan and Luna. Your story brought so many people here today." Ethan smiled, feeling a swell of gratitude. "It's been an honor to be part of this. Luna and I are just happy to help." As they drove home that evening, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had also been filled with love, hope, and new beginnings. Luna sat in the passenger seat, her green eyes fixed on the road ahead, as if she knew they were heading toward a bright future. The years passed, and Ethan and Luna's bond only grew stronger. They became local legends in Maplewood, their story, inspiring countless people to adopt shelter animals and support their community. Ethan continued to volunteer at the shelter, and Luna became a beloved ambassador, her calm presence and knowing green eyes winning over everyone she met. One sunny afternoon, Ethan and Luna returned to the old oak tree in the park where Max was buried. The tree stood tall and strong, its branches reaching out like protective arms. Ethan knelt by the gravestone, placing a small bouquet of wildflowers beside it. Luna sat beside him, her tail swishing gently. "Hey, Max," Ethan said softly, his voice filled with emotion. "It's been a while, but I wanted to let you know I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Luna's been by my side through it all, and she's reminded me every day of the love we shared." He reached out to touch the gravestone, the engraving still as clear as the day he had placed it there. Max Reed. Partner, protector, friend, forever loved. The words felt truer than ever. "I don't know how or why Luna found her way to me," Ethan continued, his voice breaking, "but I like to think you had something to do with it. You always looked out for me, even when you were gone. And now, Luna's doing the same." Luna let out a soft meow, nudging Ethan's hand with her toes. He smiled, scratching behind her ears. "You're my family, Luna, and Max, he's always with us." As they sat together in the quiet of the park, Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had also been filled with love, hope, and new beginnings. Max's spirit lived on in Luna, and together, they had created a life filled with purpose and joy. That evening, Ethan sat on the porch with Luna curled up beside him. The stars twinkled above, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the small but significant connections within it. He pulled out his journal, flipping to a blank page, and began to write. "Love doesn't end. It transforms. Max taught me that, and Luna has shown me how to live it. Every day I see the impact of their love, in the families who adopt shelter animals, in the volunteers who give their time, and in the community that comes together to support one another. I don't have all the answers, and maybe I never will, but I've learned that the journey is what matters. The connections we make, the love we share, and the lives we touch, that's what truly lasts." As he closed the journal, Luna let out a soft purr, her green eyes watching him with an almost human understanding. Ethan smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude for the cat who had brought so much light into his life. "Thank you, Luna," he said softly, "for everything." Luna nuzzled his hand, her tail swishing gently. In that moment, Ethan knew that Max's spirit would always be with him, guiding him forward, and with Luna by his side, he was ready to embrace whatever the future held.